So in today's episode, Nancy and I refer to this book, Whole Brain Living, and we talk about specifically the character 3 that is in this book. And this character 3 discusses, raises up, acknowledges our unlimitedness, our desire to be unbounded, to experience love and joy out in the world. And Nancy and I discuss why many of us have repressed our character 3, why many of us react when other people give us what we might perceive as a punishing response to who we are, whether they're making fun of something that we're wearing, whether they gave us a thumbs down or a sad face on social media. So today, Nancy and I, with open hearts and such truth, explore the challenges as well as the desire to move into our own unbounded, unbridled love and joy and playfulness on planet Earth.
Welcome to Expansive Minds Podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hi. What's happening?
I'm just happy to be here with you.
Me too.
And as I said before,
And we're
we went
going to
on,
explain things.
I've selected this outfit specifically for today.
Specifically. So I'm going to leave you with anticipation for her to tell you about the outfit while I set our intentions, so that everything we say after this moment will be guided. Okay. It is our intention as we hang out today and talk and love each other that everything we say and do shines forth with the brightest light for our good and the good of all. And so it is.
So it is.
So it is. So what's up with the outfit?
You ready to roll?
I
You ready to
am.
go?
I think so. I don't know. I'm scared now, but okay.
There's a little background.
Okay.
So we're all have some information, right? Because sometimes if we don't have shared information together, then it's hard when people jump into stuff, right?
Okay.
And I tend to be a person that jumps into stuff because I assume people have information.
Okay.
All right.
So where are we starting?
So we're going to start with two things, two stories, two experiences that brought me to wearing this outfit.
Okay.
So the first is that, to fill everyone in, Nancy and I and our friends, Kim and Vic,
In Utah. Yeah.
are reading this book together. This is a book that actually, a spiritual group that I have, one of the people, amazing people in that group, suggested that we do a book read. I was unable to go to the day when everyone was going to talk about that. So I missed that experience. And intuitively, as I was reading this, I was thinking, oh, I think this would be really great to read with Nancy and Kim and Vic.
And ironically, well, one, I've never been in my own book club, but I have read that author. I read her first book that she documented her stroke, because when my mom had her first stroke, I wanted to understand it more. And so ironically, my first book club is somebody that I'm familiar with.
So we started reading this, and the author, Jill, breaks down her experience of having a stroke, watching herself, experiencing herself shut down, because that was her specialty. She was a
neurologist.
neurologist, neurobiologist. So she, with her own knowledge and skill set, could experience the whole thing. And then she experienced coming out of it and all the work that she did. In this particular book, she breaks down the 4 sections of the brain into characters. And it's clever, and we're finding that we're working hard and enjoying pretty much once a week. Nancy, Vic, and Kim and I get onto a Zoom, and we talk about the characters. We talk about a chapter. So in this particular one that we talked about last night is known as character 3. Now that's going to come back up in a minute. So character 3, which is the right brain emotional. So I'm putting a little thing in that. The next thing to share is that I post these videos, the video podcasts or messages that Nancy and I do. I post them on my social media accounts, and I tag Nancy in them. And one of our recent ones, someone gave a sad face as a response.
Our first sad face,
Well,
which made me have a real sad face, which is why I was saying I didn't want to go public with my weirdness because I didn't want to be judged.
Exactly. Yep. So I clicked on it to see maybe, and this was my response because I didn't know the person, so they were a friend of Nancy's or just my page is open, so it could be anybody. And I say this sad face, and I was like, oh, maybe she just clicked the wrong one, whatever. And I was like so past it. And then Nancy sent me a text and was like, oh no. And I said, oh, well, maybe it was just an error. Like, that's my attitude. Mm-hmm. And plus, I didn't really care one way or the other. And then Nancy said, no, I think it was an intentional sad face. And I was like, oh, all right, whatever. And then Nancy was like, oh, but this is really hard for me. I went, oh, okay, all right. So as we were hanging with that, and Nancy and I texted, and she was like, well, maybe we can talk about like being not judgmental and da-da-da. I was like, cool, that sounds like great for our next theme of the podcast. Then last night we were talking about character 3, and I thought they tied in really well. So Nancy, are you comfortable, and it's okay if you're not, are you comfortable sharing a little bit about your experience with what you read, what character 3 meant to you when you read it? And I think you're really accurate about it. And then maybe a little bit of what that was like for you. Sure. Then we'll go into like why I wore this for you because I love you.
Because we still don't know why she wore this. Believe it or not, we're gonna get there. We are.
Typically, if I wear anything in particular on purpose, a lot of it's because I love Nancy.
Oh, thank you. So I guess we could sort of define characters.
Yeah, I'm thinking why don't you? Yeah, you go for that.
Okay, so what is she? She has right and left brain, and then two.
In case you want to refer to it.
Right and left, and then 2 hemispheres. So it's left intellectual or logical, left emotional, right intellectual, logical, right emotional. So anyway, character 3, the way I would define character 3 is like your inner child. So character 3 is the inappropriate toddler that starts dancing at a funeral at the altar, or just joy, effusive. I said it reminded me of the, it was like a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Oh, yes.
With that big floppy
George.
dog. And I will love him and pet him and call him George. And he just loved everybody, and he just played and slobber on everybody and clueless to the people who are maybe character 1 dominant, who are like, you shouldn't do that, that's not safe, that's not appropriate, and who have the boundaries. Mm-hmm. So character 3 has no boundaries, and I would just define character 3, oversimplify it as this effervescent child who has no cares, but just the desire to have fun regardless of consequences or other people's reactions around them. What do you think? Is that your take on it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have been reading these things all along, and then each character, and then we have a follow-up. We've been reading one character at a time. And so character 1 and 2 were very intellectual, very pragmatic, very reasonable.
Sometimes judgmental.
And judgmental.
Sometimes brutally so.
Yeah, yep. But anyway, I was relating to 1 and 2 because I feel like my whole life I was trained to be this intellectual, reserved, weigh the pros and the cons, the judgment of the church, or whatever religious things.
And cultural.
Cultural, Italian, yep. So I was relating to 1 and 2. I'm like, oh yeah, I do that. And and I was seeing maybe some benefits to the 1 and 2. So then we get to character 3, this inner child. Well, I burst into tears reading the chapter because I was like, I don't have a character 3.
But you're also, if you can, you're supposed to name your characters so that you can like identify them and have a relationship with them, and then eventually choose which character is living out your story in that moment. And then you can choose which one you want to be dominant. So you have more awareness of your brain. It's just, the book is another tool for a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
Just another way to go at it. Yeah.
So I think what I came to the conclusion was, I think I smished my 3 because as a child, we grew up in harder times, in the cultural family where perception of how other people saw you in the family was key. And if there was no time for silliness because there were things to be done, these are hard times, and there were consequences when my character 3 emerged. So I spent my time kind of burying it. Well, then I married a character 3, which was so awesome. And it's funny, in the book she says, if you're a character 3 and you're trying to parent, you better hope that your partner is a character 1. Well, here I am. So Jimmy would have these wonderful play sessions with the kids, which was great, but then I'd have to call the repairman because of the hole in the wall, or I'd be cleaning up the mess, or they would be grumpy the next day because they stayed up late, so there was sort of more of a angst against the character 3 persona because it meant also more consequences for me. I was the one that had to be the one to reel it in, and that made me feel like the bad guy, or the one to clean up, and the one to be pragmatic, and so it just sort of made more of an antithesis with 3. So 3 really, I buried it again. The only time I think 3 came out was when I was running Kamate, when I was running the fitness studio, and I would do whatever it took to get my people engaged in the class. I would be silly, I would play with my adult girls. When I did the kids dancing, I had license to be silly. Whatever it took to get people moving and engaged, I did it. So that, under that guise, I would allow my character 3 out.
It was still a responsibility because you were being responsible and accountable.
Because people needed 3.
Yes.
And so I let my 3 out. But
which is sweet, which is safe, which was a safe way for you to let 3 out and not be too scary.
Yeah, well, it's funny, you do things for other people, but not for yourself.
Yeah, well said.
That's again the Italian mother thing. So, so anyway, I just, Kimmy was so excited about, character 3 so fun. I can't wait to talk about character 3. She read it ahead of me, and then I read it. I'm like, this isn't fun. I don't like this chapter.
I will be punished if I read it further into this chapter.
Yeah. So. Is that what you wanted me to share?
Yeah, it was perfect. It was great. Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Get it. I shared. I get it.
Well, no, it's perfect. And yes, the character 3, again, the author, Jill, breaks them into characters. She's trying to get in a way that we, so she says, the right brain character 3 perceives everything as interconnected and in the flow of all that is. Which is really
now that
sweet.
I relate to on the spiritual level, but when she personified character 3 as just bursting at the seams regardless of where they were, dancing on the edge of a cliff, or that's where I lost.
Right, and that was the part that really, and just to mention too, it's always great when we read something or we go listen to something, what we need to hear in that moment is going to be the most prevalent, like shouting at us. And then, people, you go back and read it again, you're like, I didn't remember even it said that, because you didn't need to see that then. So you needed to see those things.
And my character 3, the part I did connect with was just sort of the peaceful oneness, flow-based, spiritual, but not the action-based with consequences.
Yes. Because there is the thing with right brain, it talks about it's a well-honed truth detector, it reads body language, matches it with facial expression. So the character 3 has a lot more to it, a lot more richness.
Than
so
just
again,
a playful child.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you, just for an example, like true for all of us, when you go back and read it again, when you're ready getting through that first more triggered level, then I think you will see, and that's I think the point of how she wrote it this way, you'll be like, wait, the character 3 has a balance to it.
Yeah.
And that I can be. Yes.
Yeah, I do have some elements of
that.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you just sort of bring the thing.
No, I locked into the child who was doing things and getting in trouble.
The boundless, vibe of this. So it's really great. And so here, when our character, this is what I think you got. When our character 3 comes out and is dominant, we become uninhibited by the paralyzing fear of our left brain judgment. Mm-hmm. And for you to be uninhibited was the problem, right? Because the left brain judgment, that's
there were
judgment
consequences
for,
when you were uninhibited
exactly.
in my
It was
youth.
beyond the judgment. It
Yeah.
was even more. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever people's punishment is,
Yes.
right? We all are conditioned. We get rewarded for something and we get punished for something.
Yep.
And we try to go towards reward and not punishment.
Yeah. And so how do we tie this in with the sad face
Yep.
and your outfit?
Yes. Okay. So now this goes back to our video on judgment, where we started talking about judgment of driving, and then we talked about judgment of ourselves, right?
Yes.
Why do we choose to do the things we do? So I'm going to start with the first thing I have on, which is this, and I'll take it off. It is this really great
snugly.
neck warmer my friend Lisbeth made me.
Oh, cool.
So she made this. First of all, it just happens to be like the realm of my favorite colors, like purple. It is super warm, and it reminds me of her. She's a really dear, wonderful friend, and she's brilliant and kind. There's so much about her that is important to me.
How cool. And then
Right.
she imbued it in fabric
Right.
by creating it nice.
So when it's cold or whatever, I just
Yeah.
throw it right on,
Okay.
right? And it's like, then look, she's here.
Yeah.
And also, if you think about, she and I speak really clear to each other, and we speak about like a lot of intelligence. She created a Waldorf-inspired school on Nantucket.
Oh, nice.
So a lot of what we share belief
Okay.
and throat chakra,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
So this is like really perfect in that way. Okay.
Okay.
So then we move on to this. My daughter sent me money. I'm not exactly sure why. It was sort of almost random, but kind of near my birthday. And it was just this beautiful thing of like, Mom, go for it. Go buy yourself something. And I went into the store, and I do love purple, but honestly, I was like, whoa, that is really purple. And then it had this thing on it that said, like, I forget, but basically it was like, you could survive in the Arctic in this. And I was kind of like, no, that's this fluffy purple? What? How is that even possible? But I bought it. It was a little more than I would have spent, but it was money she had gifted me. And I was like, you know what? This is like cool. It's my daughter, and I'm going to just like bleed it into this. And the truth is, it actually is the most insane, warmest. I'm like, I might be able to like survive the Arctic in this.
Well, and you didn't have your Vermont place at the time, or did you?
I did not.
So this
I
is
did
perfect
not.
for Vermont.
Totally. So I only have to wear this, even though it doesn't appear that it would be. So it's like this, I love this for so many reasons, right?
Okay.
And it's like it got a hood. The whole thing is like, oh. So maybe someone my age or someone, you wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, what is she, Why is she choosing to wear that? A lot of people who are out athletic, they choose, for example, if you do yoga, you might choose Lululemon yoga pants,
Yeah,
right? And it's sort of like,
The elite brands associated with that sport
correct.
activity.
And this does work incredibly well. It's got pockets, we all love them, and they zip up, so stuff isn't going to go flying
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the handles are really thick, so I can feel it even in my gloves. The whole thing is perfect, right?
Okay.
But it's not like a brand name you would
Okay.
buy or associate or be socially acceptable in wearing, right?
Okay, so one other reason why you grabbed that today.
Right.
Okay.
This underneath, one of the things I learned when I started getting more into sport, like outside hiking and stuff, is that layers are important.
Dry wick base.
No cotton, dry wick base, yes. And so I brought this one because I had posted a story on social media. That was funny, and I'll tell you briefly. And I posted it like 2 days after I bought this one, right? And I just liked it. I don't have a lot of blue, but and it had super soft. I needed it to be soft, right? So on social media, I was just telling a story, right? It was a character 3 story that sort of didn't turn out great.
Okay.
But yet, with reflection as I got older, it was great. And what it was is I was in 7th grade, And I had my own style. I wore a Catholic uniform.
Yeah.
I went to a Catholic school, so I was like, I don't know what people are wearing. Like, I don't know, So I saw this outfit, and I loved it. And back was the 70s, so that like weird polyester-y thing was in, right? So there's these khaki shorts that were kind of short, but not too short. And it was a khaki, like a vest, but like an open back, like a halter vest,
Okay.
right? And then I picked the shirt that I wanted under it, and it was this stretchy material, again, the 70s. It had this like greenish design. I don't really know what it was. Now that I look back, I think it was like French. I'm like, imagine, it was like, I think like people hanging out in France, but it was all like muted and whatever. It had like this big, huge collar, right? So we're in San Francisco on this family trip we're going, right? So I'm like, oh, today's the day. Like we're walking around San Francisco, right? So I put on the shorts and I put on this shirt and I have this vest on. And we're in a building and we're walking down this hallway to an elevator, my family, my parents. And I catch myself, my little 7th grade self, in the mirror. There's this long mirror going to the elevator, right? And I look and I look pretty good, And I'm like, and I've got like, breast buds coming out, and I'm like, because I was super skinny, you know what I mean? So I'm like, ooh, this really catches my form nicely. So I'm walking super into it, like I'm having kind of a character 3, like, I'm feeling myself, right? We get to the elevator, the door opens. I'm gonna guess, San Francisco, I'm gonna guess just based on looks, which isn't cool, so it's a little stereotypical, I'm owning that. Open the door, the elevator, there's 2 guys, more than likely gay, don't have proof. One of them is wearing the exact same shirt I have on.
Oh, funny.
And I'm like this. I'm just kind of like, are his breasts bigger than mine in this shirt? But I just had this moment of like, So then I write about that in social media, right? Yeah. And 2 days before I bought this. So I write about the story and I'm like, it's cool. Like just kind of like whatever, right? It's okay, everything's okay. Then I'm scrolling through my Instagram and I was following this little cute, adorable dog. Yeah. And in a reel of the owners who are gay, and they're very clear that they're gay, the man, he's just standing there in, I swear to this exact shirt.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like this. Are you serious? Like I just posted this story.
Oh, cool.
And now here's, yes, a confirmed gay man who I think is great. And he's got the same exact top on that I have again. Like what's happening?
That's funny.
And so it's this piece of like, whatever.
Okay,
This is my character 3. This is my character 3 being itself, and stuff may show up that's like, like it could be like,
okay.
It could be, choosing a dress that you really love and going to a wedding and being like, oh my God, that woman has the same dress I have on.
Yeah.
Right? Those things happen.
That has happened. I'm going to do a quick time check.
Yeah.
Gabriella Bella, time.
Probably closer to the 18-minute mark.
Oh, we're doing good.
Okay.
We're doing good. Because I really want to hear about the Polaroid pants.
Yes.
Because how is that going to tie in to character 3 and judgment?
Okay.
Okay.
So we have all these things like choosing what you want to wear to express yourself, right? Love.
Yep.
Right? Care, love, bonding
and
to
just
the people.
loving what you love and
Love
not
what you
worried about.
love.
Okay.
Right? And choosing, we've talked before, like it's your experience, not
Yep.
what will people think
Yep.
of this like neck warmer?
Right.
What will people think of this?
Of the non-mainstream brand of warm thing.
Does it work for you and your character 3? This is my favorite color.
Yeah,
I actually feel like, honestly, when I bought it, I was like, I kind of feel like a Muppet.
Oh, well, I love the Muppet.
Right? And you're like, what other energy do you want going out in your day?
Okay.
Really, right?
All
What
right.
is the energy you want going out in the day? And this is all character 3.
Okay.
Because we're grown-ups. It's like
Right.
one thing, and actually there's a kid at the Lighthouse School, a student, and I walked in and I was like, oh, she's kind of wearing the same top as I'm wearing, and she's in 2nd grade. I was like, Nice.
See, youthful
Character
energy.
three.
Yeah,
Character three.
yeah.
Okay, so why? So my daughter, my
Polaroid.
other daughter, bought me these sweatpants.
Okay.
My father worked for Polaroid.
So did my sister.
I grew up in a Polaroid family. He was like kind of up there in government sales,
Okay.
is what he did. So growing up in a very active Polaroid family, Polaroid was very cutting edge. There was a lot going on there. It was cool. It was hip. I mean, look at it like it's coming back, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, hip,
The
and all that
little
kind of stuff.
one, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of my background around Polaroid. And two of my favorite really important things growing up in the Polaroid world. One was just me growing up. There were an incredible amount of black executives
Okay.
in Polaroid in the 70s, 80s.
That's wonderful. I didn't know that.
So I grew up with these brilliant, incredible Polaroid, and they were men at that point, who were the executives, because that's sort of the gender thing that was still going on, but incredibly brilliant, impeccably dressed, and their wives and their children were just, they were a part of my family. The Polaroid family, it was a family.
Okay.
And so I was introduced into a world that had this deep bond, and because land was very, very, again, cutting edge with diversity and social inclusion. I mean, it was just natural. It was just natural there.
Okay.
And later on, I found out that my stepmother, a little bit of an interesting story, amazing story about my stepmother, who ended up being the person who created and was the executive director of the Polaroid Foundation.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Which I knew, but the depth of it, I learned later on. And my favorite story from that, this is me sort of bringing it forward, is that the way my dad and my stepmom really met was that my dad was part of this sort of group over here who were like, why is all this money going towards the Polaroid Foundation? Like, what's going on over there? Like, what's happening over there at the Polaroid Foundation? You know, they were doing things like the Eyes on the Prize, amazing documentary that PBS was doing, civil rights movement. They were shutting down because they were like $2,000 short. And it was my stepmother who stepped in and was like, we got that money, we can make that happen. Polaroid Foundation helped invest in the first Harvey Milk film.
Oh, wow.
So she was just like, I am doing this thing. Like, this is me. She was in that position. She made good use of it. And so to the character 3 part that you're looking to grow into, that strength, if you go back and look, it talks about character 3s have the bird's eye view of danger, safety.
Yeah.
In that openness and the unlimitedness is a strength to do the right thing without concern about consequences from others, right? That's a strength in here.
Okay.
And so what's really the funny part of that story is my dad was sent in to be on the board. My stepmother set up the board in this really cool way, as I recall. Every division had representation on the board, including maintenance, and which people tend to exclude. And also the facilitator, the board chair, always rotated. So in Polaroid in the 70s and 80s, the person chairing this board could be
Great idea.
right?
Yeah.
An Asian woman who's in the maintenance department, right?
Awesome.
So she rotated all this. So my dad's going to come in because everyone on the other part is like, we got to break this up. We need that money. We need that money. Like, what are they doing? What's happening over there in the Polaroid Foundation? So my dad's sent in to like kind of infiltrate and figure out if they can just like put the kibosh on it. So he goes in and he's watching my stepmom and he's like, it's actually really cool because she's out in her character 3. She's out in her character 3 doing her thing, being passionate, being like, This is how it goes, folks. There's a lot of love here. There's a lot of intelligence here. This is how it works. My dad was so enthralled that he was like, yeah, I'm not breaking this up.
Awesome.
And not only did he not break it up, but then he ended up
they had
dating
their
her later.
I love
He's
it.
been with her ever since.
Awesome. Cool.
So that's
the pants.
That's the pants.
Now do the shoes.
And these shoes, really sweet. Twice now, I have said to someone out loud, but not the person who gifted these to me. I've said, like, man, I really love Pumas. So my feet, as all of us, have a particular shape of a foot. And when I was in high school, Nikes were very popular. There were popular shoes and cleats in particular. I played soccer. Cleats were a very important, softball. And again, kind of goes to the name brand a little bit. So everyone was wearing these cool, adorable, like Nikes and ones that made their feet look, I could not. It didn't match my long, thin feet. So I found Pumas, and it was very rare for people to have Puma at that point. So over the last probably 4 years, I've had this desire to be like, Pumas fit so well on my feet. I love Pumas. And coincidentally, the same friend of mine down there, 2 times now, she's like, hey, somebody gave me these Puma sneakers, but they don't work for me. Would you like them? And I'm like, yes, I would like them. So it's a sneaker that fits my shape.
Yeah.
And so in my moment, I think, in thinking about like, oh, it'd be great to have some Pumas, I look at how much I loved that they fit my feet and I could achieve what I wanted in them. I honestly, I would
be
try
like the mainstream popularity.
I would try them on. I tried a pair of basketball sneakers and I'm like, these are terrible. They're hurting my toe.
Yeah.
I can't wear these.
Yeah.
I don't have that. So, and I can remember feeling a little flushed or a little like, I got to go with the Converse. I got to go with the Pumas. And that's the way it is. We wear clothes. We judge people by clothes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I think one of the things when you and I talked about going video, it's like, well, what are we going to look like? Now people can see, right? They can see. Yeah. And now it's like, and as we talked about
take advantage of that, girl, with your outfits.
Take advantage of it, right? And it's sort of like, for all of us that are worried, can we choose from our third character more often what we're going to wear and use the third character safety, the third character brilliance, and the strength. And the love. Like you talked about the third character, the love of that.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's tie that, because now we got to be getting closer to how is all of this character 3 tie into the sad face?
Why does the sad face matter to you?
It shouldn't matter to me, right?
Because are we having fun?
Yes.
I
look forward to these.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much that's beautiful. We hang with Gabby.
See my Gabby girl.
We love Gabby.
Beautiful.
We hang out with Gabby.
Yeah.
We talk. Sometimes, before we get on camera, we talk deeply about stuff that's going on with us.
Yeah.
And we hug.
Yeah.
We're all hugging. And then we kind of wrap it. After this finishes, we talk a little bit more and hug and we sit. Sometimes, you rub Gabby's back, right? Or work on her a little bit. When we're just
do
all
some cranial
in this love.
sacral.
So where is the problem?
Yes. So, right. From a purely intellectual standpoint, I should not care about the sad face.
And what about the character 3 standpoint?
What are you looking for? What do you mean? Like?
Is it joy and love and unlimitedness? We're unlimited. We're boundless in here together.
Right.
So what a gift that she gave you a sad face for being unlimited and boundless.
Right. Like, what's in my mouth? That's interesting.
See what I'm saying?
She gave us, say it again,
so
we're being boundless.
Right.
We're being boundless.
Character 3, we got love vibration. We're talking about expansiveness.
So what's sad about that?
So what's sad about that?
Yeah, I think, if I'm going to read.
Why is that credible?
Right. I think if I'm reading it, and this might be an unfair assessment.
Yeah.
The person who gave the sad face was from my church group. And that was the episode we were talking about, like crystals and tarot, a little more mystical of an episode. So my assumption, and this could be accurate or inaccurate, but it tells you where I am coming from.
Sure.
My assumption was, they think because I'm looking into this mystical stuff that I'm being judged as like, the church frowns on that.
And you expanding and being boundless and unlimited.
Right. Well, I went with, they're sad because, poor Nancy, she's strayed from the path. Oh,
so maybe
Yeah.
a character 1 or 2 was in there. You perceived it was the sad face was a
I thought
judgmental character. Like, don't you get out of line, Nancy. You're
Yeah,
gonna
it was either
disappoint
that
us.
or they were trying to, what a pity. Nancy was such a good practicing Catholic and
Yes,
now
and how-
she's fallen off the path.
And my question
I'm
is,
sad about that.
How did that affect you? But yes, and why did that affect you if
I
that
think-
person's judgment?
Well, a
was
couple
like that?
levels was one, it was a traumatic thing to put up more focus on spirituality and expansiveness than what you were raised on, the belief system you were raised on.
A
That's
risk.
one thing. And then in all fairness, I think there was me expecting the other shoe to drop. Like, I'm expecting this. Like, I'm waiting for, you look on, you see YouTube and you see these giggling babies and puppies and you see horrible hating things said underneath it, or thumbs down, and it's just like, oh my God, if they're like hating babies and puppies, we're gonna be hated. So like that to me there was always a fear of coming out on social media with our beliefs.
So does that person's woundedness have to affect us?
No, and again, from a purely intellectual reason, of course. I go straight on intellect. No, it doesn't have to affect us. But there was an initial contraction that I'm acknowledging
Yes, exactly.
that I choose to not have anymore.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And
it
the
was
way
a-
to get around that, I'm sorry,
Okay.
is what we were just saying before the show with Gabby, and what we talk about
Yes.
all the time in the show is we focus on the light.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I thought it tied into some of the parts of character 3. Like, it was so perfect that it was like, my joyful, love-based, expansive self who's out exploring has been punished, right?
Yeah.
And I was told not to because it would be an embarrassment to the family, or I didn't understand the religious culture, or I was, the perception of me would have been this. So therefore I was punished.
Yes.
And
made to feel
rewarded
less than.
And made to feel less than, and I didn't belong. And that comes down to Maslow's hierarchy of human
yes.
needs,
Yes,
right?
yes.
If your group or tribe that you perceive are the ones that are going to be feeding you and keeping you safe from being eaten by the
And
lions,
they kick you out.
you better make sure that you're
Yeah.
like, okay, yes,
Very
right?
primal, but very
primal and-
applicable, very relevant
Oh man, yes.
to this day. Yes.
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 And
Okay.
so you, like so many people, and what we're changing in the world is if we're moving to our high vibration selves,
Yes.
character 3's got to be like, it's got to be
Okay.
coming in strong.
Love it. No, it's true.
No fear.
All right. I'm going to let my character 3 out. So lessons.
I can't wait to see what you're wearing next week, Nancy.
I'm not ready to let character 3 out that much. We'll see.
Costumes.
We should have costume day. Okay, we'll play with that one. Ooh. So lessons for the week, just sum ups, sum ups. Give us some character 3 wisdom, that things we can focus on this week to stay in that
Yes.
boundless space.
I think keeping it simple based on kind of what I'm doing in this like this, because it's, look at my microphone jumped off. Woo! I was so bound, my microphone was bound.
This is the Italian talking
It is
using the
Italian.
hands.
It
It's
is
the
Italian.
hands.
So I think it's good to keep it tangible because we are talking about the earth-based part. So when we get dressed in the morning for whatever activity we're doing, no judgment of ourselves, just be like, oh, do these shoes really fit, or did I pick them because that's what all my friends are wearing?
What gives me comfort, what serves me, not
Right.
what are they going to say. if.
Right.
And something as simple as starting it with clothing, but then as you move through the day,
Yes. Start it with clothing
Same
and-
principles.
Right.
Right?
Am I expressing myself? Am I living in a state of my own being having joyful, like feng shui? right? Which is like, oh, the point of feng shui is to keep the energy moving and to create
flow.
and lift up all the vibrations in your home.
And unblock. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So by wearing this, again, every time I put it on, this brings so much to me,
Right.
right? And this color and the Muppets and the love from my daughter and all of that. What is it? Are we putting on clothing because of fear? Will our tribe accept us? Will they kick us out? Will I be made fun of? And how do I handle
Yeah.
if someone makes fun of what I'm wearing?
And I'm going to say, not just clothing, your personality, your persona.
Exactly.
So clothing.
As you said.
She's got this very intellectual, deep parable. So clothing is all elements of you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Awesome. So what do you think? We good?
Good.
And as always, more to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.